I would talk about biology and its files. This comparative science studies life from different standpoints. The branches derived from biology are various such as anatomy, anthropology, botany, embryology, biomedicine, biochemistry, cytology, genetics, histology, immunology, virology, and zoology. Biology has allowed us to know the different composition of the material that passes the genetic information from one living being to another. This knowledge supported the theory that life has a common ancestor. This evolution started with the prevalence of the archaea, then the bacteria, and later the eukarya. Likewise, biology studies the interactions between living beings, either cooperative or aggressive, between them. The interactions between these systems are the subject of study of ecology. How did life originate on the planet? The answers over the history of humanity have been varied, and we still do not have one that leaves us satisfied. Some consider that the electric activity in the atmosphere originated life. Others suggested that the creation of life occurred in the volcanoes. Some more say that the origin of life lies in the bottom of the ocean. Well, the truth until now is that everything that has been previously happened gave rise to a system based on the deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA, and ribonucleic acid, RNA, capable of storing information to create various molecules and edit them modifications. We have not seen the end of the history yet, and that is why it is relevant to continue looking for the answer to the question, how did life originate in the planet?
There are 8 characteristics that unify the living things. 1. It's organization. All their components are organized completely. 2. It's the genetic code. That's an essential characteristic that they all share. 3. Is the response to stimuli that comes from the external and internal environments. 4. Homeostasis, that is the set of self-regulation phenomena that leads to the conservation of steadiness, the composition and the property of the internal environment of an organism that allows it to have a free life. 5. Metabolism, obtaining and using energy. 6. Growth, all living things, to a greater or lesser extent, increase volume, that is, they grow. 7. Reproduction, to perpetuate their species, individuals have to reproduce themselves. And the final one, adaptation ability and evolution, adapt or die. The main difference between eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells is that eukaryotes have an endomembrane system, whereas prokaryotes does not. Besides, eukaryotes are usually larger. The endomembrane system compromises the membranes. This difference allows us to explain and understand why prokaryotes are always unicellular. It is because, to survive, each cell is constrained to do everything it needs, not so the case of multicellular organisms.
The person who is most likely to have invented the microscope is Zacharias Janssen, using a 3 times and 9 times magnification. Then, in 1665, Robert Hooke used it for scientific purposes. He used a candle for lighting and it was a magnification of 15 times. Then, Anton van Leeuwenhoek used new technique for lenses, using a magnification of 200 times. And actually, he was not a scientist, but he was really curious, observing not really common things such as sperm. Theodor Schwann and Matthias Leiden were the first to postulate the cell theory, which was that the cell is the elemental unit of plants and animals. It was in 1831 when Robert Brown explained the nucleus. In 1857 when Rudolf A. von Kolliker identified the mitochondria. In 1858 when Rudolf Virchow said that all cells come from pre-existing cells. In 1880 was when August Weismann said that the current and ancestral cells are similar in structure and composition, and in 1981, Lynn Margulis proposed the endosymbiotic theory. Now, about the cell theory, there are four basic postulates of the cell, which are 1. All living things are made up of cells. 2. Every cell comes from a pre-existing one. 3. That the cell is a physiological unit of life. And 4. That the cell contains the hereditary information. But that's not it, there can be added a fifth postulate, which is that disease begins in the cell.
Cellular transport. This process refers to the movement of substances across the cell membrane. There are two types of cellular transportation, active and passive. Active transports requires energy. This means cells move from a region of low concentration to high concentration. In a biological system, a membrane is crossed using enzymes and energy. However, there exist several types of passive transport. These are simple diffusion, facilitated diffusion, filtration, and osmosis. I'm going to explain these types of passive transport. First, the simple diffusion is when the solids move from a region of higher concentrations to lower concentrations. The facilitated diffusion is when solids move across a membrane from higher to lower concentrations. Then it is filtration. Is when the solid and solvent molecules and ions cross a membrane because of hydrostatic pressure. Molecules of small enough to pass through the filter may pass. This means that since the pressure is higher than in other places in the space, particles or molecules are going to pass faster through it. Then this is of osmosis, when the solvent's molecule move from lower to higher concentrations across a semi-permeable membrane. Note, this makes the solid molecules more dilute. Also, there exist other types of cell transportation. These are the exocytes and endocytes. Basically, endocytes is a process in which material is incorporated to a cell. Like any material can enter the cell through a process that was already mentioned. And then, in the other hand, exocytosis is a secretion of material produced by the cell. And I'm going to talk both organization and biology and cellular transport. First, the different levels of organization are population, organisms, organ systems, organs, tissues, and cells. I'm going to explain all the concepts that I already mentioned. So, a population are all inhabitants of an area. An organization is an individual, for example, an animal, plant, or single-cell life form. A system is a set of things working together as a part of a mechanism or an interconnected network. An example of this is a circulatory system, vascular system, respiratory system, and others. Then there are the organs. An organ is a part of the organism and has a specific function, like the brain or the heart. The tissue is an intrinsic type of material of which an animal or plants are made. Then the cell. The cell is the smallest structural and functional unit of an organism, typically microscopic and consisting of cytoplasm, a nucleus, enclosed in a membrane. Microscopic organisms typically consist of a single cell, with each either eukaryotic or prokaryotic.
Homeostasis comes from the union of two Greek words, which one is homeos, that means similar or equal, and stasis, which means state or stability. In 1965, Claude Bernard said all the vital mechanisms varied as they are, have only one object, to preserve constant the internal environment. And in 1928, Walter Cannon coined the term homeostasis, which described and defined the regulation of internal environments. In our body, we have a lot of organ systems, but there are 12 main organ systems, which include cardiovascular, lymphatic, digestive, endocrine, integumentary, muscular, nervous, reproductive, respiratory, skeletal, urinary, and the cardiovascular system is in charge in the transport of oxygen, nutrients, and other substances to the cell, and also remove waste, which is like carbon dioxide and other substances from the cells. In the lymphatic system, it defends the body against infection and diseases. In the digestive system, it processes the food and absorbs nutrients as mineral vitamins and water. In the endocrine system, provides communication with the body through hormones and directs long-term changes in other organ systems to maintain the homeostasis. Integumentary system provides protection against the injuries and loss of fluids, as well as physical defense against infections of microorganisms. In the muscular system, provides movement, support, and heat production. In the nervous system, collects, transfers, and processes information. In the reproductive, processes gametes, which are the sex cells, and sexual hormones. The respiratory system helps and delivers air to the place where gases exchange. The system supports and protects the soft tissues of the body, and urinary system eliminates excess water, salts, waste products of blood and body. It controls the pH. And immune system defends against microbiological pathogens and other diseases. Pathogens are the causative agents of diseases.
Health and disease. Health is an issue of the worldwide because it is the ideal state that all people want to achieve, and a disease means an alteration, more or less, severe of health. For a person to be considered healthy, this person must observe health in the psychic and social aspects. That is, that the person must integrate his emotions and feelings with his social environment. Health in adolescence. Adolescence is a stage that is characterized by the transition between childhood and adulthood, which implies physical, cognitive, and psychosocial changes. One of the physical changes closely associated with puberty are the hormonal ones. Another factor in this stage is the cognitive maturity. Cognition is the set of processes or mental structures related to awareness and knowledge. From the social perspective, adolescence health has to do with several aspects, as the adoption of values and the development of an identity. Health lifestyle. Scientists have studied health enough to affirm that the most significant factor in its maintenance or the onset of the disease is the lifestyle. Lifestyle are related to the social and cultural behaviors pertaining to diverse groups. Healthy lifestyle promote habits beneficial to the aspects in the life of an individual, in other words, biopsychosocial balance. From this perspective, there are two ways of looking at the behaviors included in the style of life: behavioral pathogens and behavioral immunogens. By behavioral pathogens, we refer to behaviors that increase the risk of an individual to get sick, while behavioral immunogens are the behaviors that help the person to be less susceptible to some disease.